Hey guys, I just wanted to take a minute and go over the 5 steps of rhythm interpretation. I know there's been some question in class as we move forward. One thing that I want you to remember about the 5 steps of rhythm interpretation is we use these 5 steps on all of our strips. I know we discussed sinus rhythms and we took our test on sinus rhythms, and now we're moving forward to rhythms that originate in the atrium. But one thing that I want you guys to remember is that it doesn't matter what type of rhythm that we're talking about, whether it be an atrial rhythm, a sinus rhythm, or a rhythm that's originating in the ventricles. We always work through these 5 steps of the rhythm interpretation. So the very first one that we're going to look at, the very first question that we ask ourselves when we are looking at a rhythm strip, we're going to ask ourselves, are there QRS complexes? That is the very first thing that we're going to do. So when we determine our answer, so if we ask ourselves, are there QRS complexes, and the answer is yes, then we look at their size and shape. Does their size and shape vary? However, if the answer is no, then we move forward. We skip to question number 4. So that's one of the big rules that you need to remember. We ask ourselves question number 1, are there QRS complexes? If the answer is yes, then we look at their size and shape. If the answer is no, we skip to question number 4. So now moving forward, we're going to say the answer is yes. We're going to ask ourselves, is the size the same? Does the shape vary? And if it does, we'll take note of that. Now the second thing that we're going to ask ourselves is the rhythm regular? Is it regular but interrupted, or is it irregular? Okay? So what do we mean by is the rhythm regular but interrupted, or irregular? And we talked about that briefly in class. If the rhythm is regular, we have a different method of counting the heart rate. But if it's irregular, we want to use that 6-second strip method and find the heart rate range along with the mean heart rate. So, but first we determine the second step is the rhythm regular or irregular, or is it regular but interrupted? Remember, when we count regularity, we're going to count between the R waves, okay? And so we go to the R, the pointed part of the QRS complex, and we count the small blocks between that R and the next R that's down the line. And we'll pick up and we'll count the differences in these RR waves across the entire strip. A regular rhythm does not vary any more than 1 to 2 little blocks in length. An irregular rhythm will kind of be all over the place. You may have more than 2 little blocks as a difference between those two. So we would count the first R complex and just say it was 21, and the next one was 22, and then the next one was 21. That would be considered a regular rhythm because it doesn't vary more than 21 to 22 little blocks. With an irregular, they may be all over the place. You may have a variation from 15 to 20 to 22, back to 15, back to 18, so on and so forth. And if there's any questions about that, I can put up another video as far as how to determine if a rhythm is regular or irregular. But for right now, I want to stick to the basics. So step 2, we are going to determine, is this rhythm regular or irregular, or regular but interrupted? So now that we've determined what this rhythm strip is, our third step is calculating the heart rate. So we're going to now calculate the heart rate. Remember, if we have a heart rate greater than 100, it is considered to be tachycardia. And if that heart rate is less than 60, it is considered to be bradycardia. So how do we calculate our heart rate? So back to the regularity. If the rhythm is considered to be regular and it does not vary more than 1 to 2 little blocks, you can just simply count the little blocks between an R and an R and divide the little blocks into 1500. That would be the little block method that we discussed in class. So that would be the most accurate way to calculate a heart rate on a regular rhythm. However, if the rhythm is irregular, or if the rhythm is regular but interrupted by a pause, you want to use the 6-second strip method. And with the 6-second strip method, we will go to the consecutive R's. We will find the 2 R waves that are furthest apart, and we will count the little blocks using the little block method and determine what that heart rate is. That is going to be your slowest rate. Then we will pick the 2 R complexes that are closest together, count the little blocks, divide that into 1500 using the little block method, and that will give us the fastest heart rate. And then we will count all of the QRS complexes across that strip and multiply it by 10 to get the mean heart rate. So the reason we use the 6-second strip method when a rhythm is irregular is we want to make sure that we're finding that range, and using this 6-second strip method we determine what that range is from slowest to fastest, and then we're able to look at what the mean heart rate is as well. And we do that because that rhythm is irregular. We need to know what the slowest and fastest rate is. But if that rhythm is regular, it's perfectly regular, you just use the little block method and move on. So now that we've determined what the heart rate is, our next step is to determine, are there P waves? If so, what is the relationship to the QRS? If so, are the P waves always in the same place? Are they relative to the QRS? Or are they different in each beat? So we need to look at, is the P wave shape the same? Does a QRS follow each P wave? Are any P's not followed by the QRS? So do we see a P wave that doesn't have a QRS that follows it? Does the shape look the same across the strip, or does that shape vary? Let's look at the PP interval between the beats. Is the PP interval the same, or does it vary? And if there's a question about how to find the PP interval, I can go over that with you as well, but you basically are counting from P wave to the next P wave. You're counting the little blocks and you're seeing if there's a variation in that. So that's the questions that you would ask yourself about the P wave. So once you determine what's going on with that P wave, we're going to move on to question number 5. Question number 5 is, what are the PR and QRS intervals? So what are the PR and QRS intervals? Are the intervals within normal limits, or are they too short or too long? Are the intervals constant, or do they vary? Okay, so we have to look at all of this. So knowing the normal length of a PR interval and a QRS interval is very important. All of these intervals, we have a set of normals, and you need to know and remember what those normals are so you can determine when you're looking at the PR interval and the QRS intervals, are they too wide, are they too short, what's going on here? So we have to know our set of normals, but this is the 5th step. We're going to determine if these PR intervals and QRS intervals are normal. I hope this helps, and like I said, we're going to consider when we move forward working with sinus rhythms and the atrial rhythms, ventricular rhythms, whatever rhythm we're talking about, this set of criteria is super, super, super important because you ask yourself the same questions to put the pieces of the puzzles together. If you have any questions, please see me. Thanks.